Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Matt Report, courtesy of the Cobos Insurance Center in Elyria and also in Avon Lake. Tim Elkhorn with AM 930 WEOL, along with Sean Bennett from the Chronicle Telegram, our very first video as far as 2018 is concerned. And Sean, while we turn the calendar to the new year, certainly the wrestling season really now in full swing.
Right, we're about halfway through. The big tournaments, we just got the big holiday tournaments, which are exciting around here. They've got the Brecksville holiday, Medina Invitational, some big name holiday tournaments. So a lot of people were excited to be on the mats. I was excited to be on my phone, kind of sneaking away from the family and checking things out while on vacation. So definitely kind of cool to see what was going on out there.
As far as those holiday tournaments were concerned and some of the action that was on the mats over the holiday time, anything that really caught your attention?
Well, obviously the Brecksville is the big one. That's the longest running holiday tournament in the nation, I believe, and they bring out-of-state competition in because again, these holiday tournaments are during winter break. So
Right.
teams from Michigan, West Virginia, a lot of that New York come rolling in, Pennsylvania come rolling in to kind of test some of Ohio's best because this is a hotbed nationally for high school wrestling. So they come on in, they get some of the best teams, some of the best wrestlers in the country in here to wrestle. And Brecksville tends to bring some of the best of the best. So it's real nice to see what goes on there at Brecksville.
And I know when we talk about the best of the best, certainly there are wrestlers in that pioneer program from Elyria High that come to the forefront. Who was over at Brecksville and who did well?
Right, yeah, Leary obviously a great showing there. They finished 8th out of 47 teams, a real
Wow.
big tournament
Wow.
field. And it's 47 tough teams again, so finishing top 10 in that tournament is really, really good. And again, that's a little bit of the payoff for Illyria's schedule. You know, they wrestled at the Ironman, they go out to Delaware and wrestle at the Beast of the East, and now they're coming back home and they're starting to wrestle in tournaments where they're kind of the big dogs because they've gone through that grind. They've become a better team. They've got a lot of individuals who've sharpened their skills, and two obviously of those wrestlers went in there and won the championships. Sophomore Dylan Shaver won the 113-pound championship, and senior Josh Breeding won at 132 pounds. Both of them beating nationally ranked wrestlers in the finals to capture those titles.
And I know another tournament that caught a lot of fans' attention, and certainly the wrestling fans in this area are pretty passionate, down in Medina, the Medina Invitational Tournament. They call it the MIT, but certainly some local wrestlers on the mats in Medina as well.
Yeah, we had 3 local schools there: Firelands, Lorain, and Wellington, all there. Firelands had the best showing out of the local schools. They finished 20 out of 44, another big field. 44 teams there at Medina Invitational, or the MIT as it's affectionately known around here. Firelands, obviously, again, Peyton Bergdorf, undefeated still.
He's amazing.
But he has finally dropped down to his 106 pounds. That's going to be the weight that he plans on competing in the postseason for sectionals, and where he placed last year in state as a freshman. So he dropped down to 106 pounds, won the championship there at 106 pounds at the MIT. Did it with a couple big wins. And also, I should mention Sean Lipscomb finished 3rd as well. He suffered his first loss. He was undefeated. They were both undefeated going into this, but Lipscomb suffered his first loss of the season. Came in the quarterfinals against Jacob Cover from Hilliard Darby. He's ranked number 9 in Division I in the state. So tough opponent, but he ended up taking his first loss there. But he bounced back to take 3rd there. Bergdorf beat Mikey Luerchik, who's ranked 13th in Division I out of Wadsworth in the quarterfinals. Then beat Garen Lotzenhauser, who's ranked number 5 in Division II of Louisville, I believe is how we pronounce it in Ohio. Louisville, Ohio.
Right.
Not Louisville like in Kentucky. But so yeah, a couple big wins there for Bergdorf, who's just piling them up. He's putting a resume together his sophomore year. He's a guy to be reckoned with, and he's expected to finish in the state final as a state finalist this year. He's projected to be the state runner-up right now, so he keeps going. I think that he might maybe flip-flop over and potentially be the guy that people are thinking might win a state title.
I know last week on the radio show that we do for wrestling, the weekly wrestling recap, Brad Bourneval, who of course does great work for the Chronicle and did some work while you were off, he mentioned the fact that loss in the state tournament last year really appears to be fueling Bergdorf. He's kind of taken that loss and used it as a motivational tool for this year.
Yeah, and he has. I mean, he's got this chip on his shoulder. He's a little undersized. He didn't get a lot of love last year by the rankings and that. So he's been, kind of out to prove. He had to prove something last year, and he's out to prove even more this year. And he's Brad kind of co-covers that state tournament with me, and he kind of took that sidebar of him, and this guy. He's fallen in love with him. I have too. Bergdorf's one of these guys that you just want to root for. He's kind of the Rudy of Lorain County wrestling. He's a little bit of an underdog, but at the same time, he's not really. He goes in there and he gets the job done. So he's an impressive wrestler to watch, and he's only a sophomore. He's only halfway through his sophomore season, so it's amazing to think what he might be able to do throughout his high school career.
That's a really fun story. By the way, all you Notre Dame fans, you love that Rudy reference that Sean Bennett just dropped in. Hey, one more real quick look to last week, the Vermillion Duels. Nice tournament over there.
Again, that's a fun tournament because it's team versus team. It's different than the regular bracket tournament. So you're going in and teams are facing each other. It had a wild finish. Vermillion and Black River both finished 8-1 in the tournament. Vermillion wins the team title because they beat Black River in the heads-up duel on day one. So they end up going 8-1 each, so that's a good showing. We had a lot of teams there. Illyria's white team, which is like their second varsity team, they finished 5th. Clearview finished 6th. Columbia finished 9th. Oberlin finished 10th. And the nice thing is, all 3 of the MVPs, they give 3 MVPs there, one for lower weights, one for the upper weights, and one for the middle weights, all went to local wrestlers. So the middleweight champion was by the Sailors.
Right.
That's Jacob Colazar at 145 pounds, won that middleweights MVP. And Clearview's J.D. McCardle, a senior heavyweight, went 9-0 with 9 pins to win the heavyweights, the top weights MVP. And again, Oberlin's Robert Bouchonville at 126 won the lightweights MVP. Again, a nice step forward progress-wise for Oberlin, for him to kind of make that step forward and kind of have Oberlin kind of keep that success thing rolling on.
Coach Huff over at Oberlin had a real nice Facebook post about that he was really proud of that young man, and it was a big step forward for the Oberlin wrestling program.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you got to do is just kind of keep, the name getting out there, keep the morale going, and that's what he's doing. This, young guy is kind of, he's done some things in the past, but now he's kind of putting together a season to be proud of, and who knows, he gets that momentum rolling, and when he comes into sectionals, he maybe runs through districts and wins a couple big matches, and Oberlin's got a state qualifier back in the mix again.
That'd be a great story. All right, looking ahead to this weekend on the mats, any particular tournaments or any matchups that kind of catch your attention?
Well, I've covered it the last couple of years. I won't be covering it this year because I'm on vacation through the end of the week, so I'm not going to be at the Pin City Invitational at Perry High School, but I've covered it the last couple of years. It's a great tournament. They also bring in schools from Erie, Pennsylvania. That's who has won it last year. Erie Prep Cathedral out of Erie, Pennsylvania, and Amherst, Avon Lake, and North Ridgeville are all at that tournament. So I highly recommend anybody who doesn't mind driving out there. It's one of those crazy, one of my crazy coverage stories is I go to Perry Pin City last year, and it's always the first weekend in January, and I cover the tournament all day. It's nice, this and that. Come out, it's a blizzard to the point where I'm going down.
I shouldn't laugh.
Yeah, I'm going down 90, and you can't see 10 feet in front of your car, so I'm going 20 miles per hour. Hit the Cleveland city limits, get on the west side of Cleveland, and it's bright and crisp and a beautiful night.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable. That east side of Cleveland, I don't know how those guys do it with that crazy lake effect snow. But so yeah, go out to Perry Pin City. A couple other big tournaments. Vermillion and Firelands are both in weekend tournaments. Vermillion at Mansfield Invitational. Firelands at the Perrysburg Invitational. Going to be great wrestling out there as well if you don't mind traveling out toward the Toledo area. And then one-day tournaments. Illyria White Team, Oberlin, and host Columbia at the Columbia Invitational on Saturday. Brookside at the Janet Stammen Invitational at Woodridge High on Saturday, and Keystone at the Plymouth Invitational on Saturday.
All right. Now, before we get to our Cobos Insurance Center tip of the cap, we had a trivia question in last week's video. Of course, Sean and I last week kind of went through the history of Lorain County Wrestling, some of the great programs that have been around for a long time, some of the individuals. And we talked about schools that had multiple state winners. And, of course, Elyria High leading the way and the former Southview. And then we said there were 3 schools that had 6 state champions. And we said we'd let you know this week. So, all right, we're going to let you know. Who are those 3 schools?
The 3 schools, the Lorain County schools that have 6 state champions are Columbia, Oberlin, and Wellington. All have 6. And Oberlin, obviously, 4 of those state champs
Right.
are Eric Burnett. He
Mr.
won 4
Burnett,
state
yeah.
titles while he was there. But, yeah, those all are coming in tied at 3rd with 6 titles. Very impressive. And those are all schools right now that are kind of struggling to get back into that place where they're putting wrestlers into the state tournament for chances to place and end up on the podium and hopefully on top of the podium and add to that total.
By the way, I got a lot of nice compliments on last week's video. They really liked that stroll down memory lane as far as Lorain County wrestling was concerned. That was a fun video.
I enjoy it too. I mean, I've done it over a long time, just picking up new bits of information and learning about the history of the county. It's always fun to and Jack Gillespie, who's the assistant coach out of Elyria, sends information out to all the local media, newspapers about what Elyria's program's doing on a weekly. He's started adding these trivia things about it,
That's cool.
to give you even more information. So it's kind of fun to learn about the history of the area.
All right, to close things out, Mr. Bennett, got to put the caps on. It's our weekly tip of the cap. So here we go. Who are you going to tip the cap to this week?
Okay, we got to go with, I think, Elyria senior Josh Breeding. Obviously, Josh is a great wrestler. Has been a great wrestler at Elyria for 4 years now. He is now a 4-time Brecksville Holiday placer, which is no easy feat. That's
wow. With that competition, yeah.
Yeah, well, with the competition, just staying healthy, it always seems like there's top-level wrestlers that miss that tournament because of injury or illness. You're in the middle of the winter and stuff like that. But he's been there, he's got it done, and this time he got it done in a big way. He ends up winning the championship out there at Elyria, won the 132-pound championship, did it by beating a pair of Michigan State placers in the quarterfinals and semifinals, then knocks off nationally ranked Gabe Tagg of Brecksville in the final. Gabe Tagg's an Ironman champion. Now, we've talked about the Ironman. It's a brutal tournament. It's very hard to win a championship there. He only has one champion in history. That's Kevin Vo, heavyweight, at that tournament. So he knocks off an Ironman champion in the final to win that title. Dylan Shaver also did pretty much the same type of thing, beat a nationally ranked guy in his final. So I want to give him an honorable mention tip. This tip on this side for honorable mention for Dylan Shaver, but obviously Dylan is himself nationally ranked, so it's not still impressive, but maybe a little more expected from him. But Josh Breeding, just very fantastic, another big feat of a great senior year for him.
Terrific. So again, tip of the cap, Josh Breeding of Elyria High. Great job. Sean, good to see you again. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you and yours and everybody out there.
And don't forget the radio weekly wrestling recap coming up Thursday night on WEOL. But that's going to do it for this week's video, the Matt Report, courtesy of the Cobos Insurance Center. For Sean Bennett, I'm Tim Elkhorn. Thanks a lot for watching.